Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. It's almost that time where we're going to ring in 2023, but we have a few hours ahead of us. In the meantime, up in our Healthy Minutes segment, brought to you by Caldwell Soames and OG Pay, we are featuring the amazing David Meltzer, a legendary sports exec, entrepreneur, and investor. He co founded Sports One Marketing and formerly served as CEO of the renowned Leigh Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. Now, there's a fun fact. His life's mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. And as part of that mission, for the past 20 years, David has been providing free weekly training to empower others. Today, we're chatting all about happiness, especially going into 2023, the power of words, and how if you speak it, you can manifest it. For many, happiness is usually referred to as the ultimate goal of life that everyone strives for. But a multinational study called Predictors of Aversion to Happiness, authored by Mohsen Jashanlu, found that people with unhappy childhoods are more likely to exhibit a fear of happiness. Happiness is a highly coveted emotion that many of us build our lives around. But psychology research suggests that people can be afraid of happiness, a concept called aversion to happiness, the belief that experiencing or expressing happiness can cause bad things to happen. As humans, we have different genes, different fingerprints, different personality traits, and different ideas about happiness. Our attitude towards happiness is not just a matter of personal choice. The attitude is determined to some degree by cultural factors, our psychological traits, such as degree of perfectionism, and the quality of our relationships with others throughout life. Here to chat happiness, how to spread it, and the power of words is the amazing David Meltzer. Welcome to the show, my dear friend.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And there couldn't be a better thing to talk about as we come into the new year than the joy and happiness that life can provide if we think, say, do, believe, and feel all the things in that trajectory of happiness.
Oh, well said. And Happy New Year. Wishing you happiness and health and all the best for 2023.
Thank you, and the same to you.
All right, so let's get to it. Positive emotions have been linked with better health, longer life, and greater well being in numerous scientific studies. We know this. And on the other hand, chronic anger, worry, and hostility increase the risk of developing heart disease as people really react to these feelings with raised blood pressure and stiffening of blood vessels, so to speak. But it isn't easy to maintain a healthy, positive emotional state, David. And harnessing the power of happiness, mindfulness, and inner strength can be a really daunting, clueless task for many. Talk to me about the basics to maintain a happy state.
Well, first, we have to look at happiness in a different way. We can't romanticize happiness as the solution to everything. And so we have to have practices of happiness. And the first practice of happiness is to identify what's interfering with our happiness. So, in other words, we have to shift a paradigm to say that I am happy. What am I doing to interfere with it instead of I need to get more happy? And that paradigm shift also includes something called faith. Faith that there's something bigger than you that loves you more than your mom. And that's not easy. But I think putting into context happiness as a practice, and the practice that I have is enjoying the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of my happiness. And I joke around, there's a guy named Chris Gardner who wrote the movie Pursuit of Happiness, the book, and had Will Smith star in that movie. And I said, you got it backwards. You have to not pursue happiness. It's actually happiness is the pursuit. So notice I talk about a practice of enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit, not being happy after you pursue something. It's part of you. So that paradigm shift allows us to have a practice of happiness.
Very interesting because when you look at it, right, modern happiness has certain tropes associated with it: money, success, comfort. But if you look at social scientists, they're finding that generating happiness in your life really has less to do with any arbitrary number like our bank account or how many Instagram followers we have, and really more to do with how well we connect with the people around us. So what you said is very true. Talk to me about the notion of positivity and speaking empowering thoughts into the universe, David.
Yeah, there's a mathematical equation like I'd like to rely on myself. And first, it's one, attention. We need to focus in on what it is that makes us happy or what we think is going to make us happy. And then this idea of intention. And 1/5 of intention is what we say. It's also what we do and think, believe, and feel. But those words have power. In fact, when I wrote my first book called Connected to Goodness, the very, very famous book review, and I was very glad that this happened. She just crapped on my book. And the reason she hated my book was because I wrote in the book, as I had learned, that you could speak to water. We're 80% water. Think about that. And if we speak to water and if we say loving things to water, it actually would clear the water up. The cellular structure of the water would take the information from the vibration or frequency of our voice, and it would change the cellular structure of the water. And if we would say negative things to the water, the cellular structure of the water would become dirty, and it would be in a state of inflammation, in other words. And inflammation in the body, for example, which is 80% water or more, it causes cortisol, which creates more inflammation, more interference to our health and our happiness. So to this end, this great book reviewer did on my book, excuse my language, because I said this in my book, and meanwhile, it caused a whole rush of people to defend me who understand how thinking, saying, doing, believing, and feeling something changes our cellular structure. When I drink water, I talk to my water. So as I drink water, I tell it, I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am worthy. And I put it down into, now it becomes a part of my cellular structure. So it's extremely important, mindset, heart set, and handset wise, to say things that are aligned with the trajectory of what you think you want in the future.
So very true. And, the power of words and affirmations, our thoughts also impact what we manifest in our lives. But it could be argued that the real power lies in our words. It's our words that provide a bold affirmation of our innermost thoughts. I mean, at the end of the day, they are a confirmation of the world, of how we see others, ourselves, and our lives. And if you really kind of think about the big picture of it, what you just said resonates very much, but it's this powerful affirmation that our words provide, which enables our thoughts to manifest into a reality. So whether you're talking to the water, or whether you're talking to yourself, or whether you're talking to your child, or whether you're giving a compliment to somebody, right? I always say, at the end of the day, I believe that we all have a superpower that we might not know about, the power that we have, but it's the power to make another person glow. In fact, a study found that we underestimate how happy someone feels after they receive a compliment. And as a live radio and TV host, I always remind people that these small acts of kindness have a huge impact, and letting people know that they matter is so very important. Talk to me, David. Why do we choose to misuse our most powerful asset and often misuse our words and self sabotage?
Well, it's interesting because of that paradigm shift that most people think they have to go out and get something. They look the wrong way in effective communication. They're so worried about telling people what they think, they don't realize that effective communication starts with inspiration, intellect, and intuition of knowing that there's something bigger than them that loves them more than their mom. And that if we have faith, and I'm not talking just religious faith, spiritual, theoretical, cognitive faith, but if we have faith, a hope of something better, that we first should look to a bigger and greater source, an omniscient, all powerful, all knowing source. Why? Because everybody gets kicked in the face on average about the same amount of times a day. Everyone, no matter how much money you have, where you grew up, everyone gets kicked in the face approximately the same amount of times every day. That's why I use time, the man-made construct of time, to quantify the progress that I'm making, to determine how much time am I spending in interference, in that state of unhappiness. And so because time is a stable piece of data, that I know that, for example, on average, you get kicked in the face 8 times a day. How long does it take you to get back to center, back to happiness. See, I used to have a need to be offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, all these interfering thoughts. And I'd spend days, weeks, months, and years with a need to be offended with the people that were closest to me, ruining the relationships, the relativity of my connectedness with others. And instead, I started to use time and daily practices in order to effectuate being happy more of the time by actually quantifying how much time it took me when I got kicked in the mouth or kicked in the face to get back to happiness.
I love how you put that. That's very true, very true. And I'm of the mindset that everyone has unique strengths. I always tell this to my daughter. She's going to be 7 in just a few days, but people might not know what those are. And studies have found that using your strengths is associated with living a happier life. So I always seek to find the strength in others, and the ability to show people what they're best at, I believe, is going to make them feel so much more confident. So by calling it out when you see it in action, reaffirms that you're actually paying attention, and the universe actually requires us to listen, observe, and then react. So identifying other people's strength inadvertently propels us ourselves. So yeah, I definitely believe that it's full circle. It's all energy. David, let's speak from the heart. So when we complain about our lot in life and speak anxiously or use hateful words, we usually do so from a place of fear. How can we practice better self-awareness?
Well, I have a 4-step process to practice this and create better awareness or a higher vibration to this matter. And one is you have to practice identifying fear, right? Everyone has it. You're not going to get rid of it. So we have to identify fear. And it comes in many forms, as I kind of rambled off the need to be separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, just to name a few. And so when we practice identifying fear, now we can utilize that fear. And there's 2 utilizations of fear. And one is to motivate us, right? To flee, to fight, to feed, to fornicate. It's a motivator fear. And that's the essence of what fear was created for, to protect our embodiment. But we also can utilize fear to get out of our own way, to access and effectively communicate with that source I was talking about, the truth, the law of love, potential, whatever you define it as. And so first, if we can identify, geez, I'm anxious, I'm worried, I'm offended, I'm upset, and then practice, instead of fighting it, out logicking it, analyzing it, going over it, under it, through it, lying to it, manipulating it, cheating it, and denying it, which most people do. In other words, instead of accelerating in the fear to a different direction, simply stop. Breathe through our nose, out through our mouth, remind, remember, and recollect what it is I want today in the trajectory of what I think I want in the future. Remind, remember, and recollect to what? To the source, so that you're protected and promoted when you identify fear, not punished. And this essence of understanding, when we identify fear, we know our mind, our body, and our soul are on fire. And everybody knows, if you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll.
I love it. I love it. You are wise words, my friend. And it comes back. We have about a minute left, but I just want to end by saying something about joy, because you know when you're looking at fear and when you're looking at joy, those are 2 very, very different emotions. And joy, I always say, can be magnified if we're around others. We all know that intuitively, if we're watching like a really, really funny movie by ourselves, great, it's pretty cool. But if we're watching a really funny movie with our best friend, we're looking over and sharing the laughter together, that kind of feels a lot better. So the emotions we experience, good or bad, get more intense when we experience them together. And so this also explains why negativity tends to spread like wildfire, given the right context, such as like a toxic office environment, for example. But um so insightful. So much going on in my head right now, and I'm feeling really happy and good because you just reset a lot for me. So I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on and spending this really special night with me.
Thank you. Happiness is the most viral of all diseases. So spread happiness. Even witnessing happiness makes us happy, as you said, by sharing it with others, especially in the new year. Please manifest everything you desire. Reach out to me, David@dmeltzer.com. I'd be happy to help you with exercises, guides. They're all free. So just email me.
We are at the end of this inspiring interview, my dear friends, a few hours away from 2023. So take a moment to reflect on the year that passed and what changes you need to make to live out your best life in this new coming year. I know for a fact that you're all very special and that this is going to be one magnificent year. That was our Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames and OG Pay. And that was the awesome David Meltzer. Head directly to his website at dmeltzer.com, or you could check him out all over social media on the gram, Facebook, or LinkedIn at David Meltzer. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.